Welcome to You Can't Get to Heaven in a Miniskirt. My name is Sarah.
And my name is Jessica.
And thank you so much for coming here today. I'm always so good at doing these intros. You can find us on Instagram at Heaven in a Miniskirt, or you can go to heaveninaminiskirt.com.
If you'd like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/heaveninaminiskirt. You can also support us through Apple Podcasts. It's the same content, the same price. Yeah, that's it. That's the intro. Sarah seems tired. It's late where she is. So today, I need your full and undivided attention because we are going to talk about angels.
And I'm going in blind to this because other than the vast array of knowledge I have from being raised with the belief that angels are among us all the time.
Uh-huh. And we were going to talk about that. So I guess my first question is, do you have any important information or experiences about angels or past belief about angels that you'd like to bring up right now? Because I know that there's probably so much, but is there any interesting tidbit you'd like to bring up before we get started?
Well, there's one Bible verse that says you could be entertaining angels and not know it. And so I feel like that was always something that was brought up, that like there could just be like mysterious visitors that would come to you, or like anyone you're dealing with all the time, it could be an angel. And so you better be on your best behavior.
Interesting. If that didn't come up in my research, but did Jesus say that? Because he talked about angels a little bit.
Let's see. I think it's attributed to Paul by some people, but it's sus. So it says, don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it. And so that would be a nice little message to send to our Republican friends in the United States around immigration and how we should treat people that are not from our country.
Let's get political. Okay.
Yeah.
So
they could all be angels. And
yeah, they could be. And then, well, okay. I have no rebuttal to that. I'm not in a political state of mind right now. I'm in an angel state of mind.
I got told that I looked like an angel. I got catcalled this week.
Oh my God.
Walking into work.
Wow. Okay. You know, it's always the really messed up ones that want to give you a good pickup line. No good guy is coming to you with a pickup line. So that's just my generalization for today. I like to make a huge sweeping generalization.
I have some good angel pickup lines, though. Are you an angel, Jessica?
No.
Because you look like you've fallen from heaven.
Well, yeah, that's like the big one. Is that the only one you know?
That's all I got.
Oh my God. I thought you had multiple. You're like, I have so many pickup lines.
I could probably find more, but I'm not really a pickup artist.
Can you imagine if that was part of this episode? Like, I was like, so now we're going to talk about the pickup lines. Okay, so let's talk. No. Sarah's getting out her phone. Put that away. No. We're not.
I am reining it in. And what do you have for us today?
First, I just want to define what an angel is for nobody, because everybody knows.
Are we sticking to a Judeo-Christian perspective here?
For almost this entire episode, we are going to stick to a Judeo-Christian perspective, but I do want to mention, and it's in the definition, that angels are within most Abrahamic religions, so that includes Islam. And then there's some sects of Hinduism and Buddhism that believe in this as well. But we are going to stick to Judeo-Christian, almost mostly Christian, but obviously there's some Old Testament stuff that we're going to get into. So within these religions, an angel is a heavenly, supernatural, or spiritual being under the service of a supreme deity. The Greek word translated into English is messenger. So angel means messenger, which describes the role they have as God's servants. So now I'm going to throw some stats your way.
Can I guess?
Yeah. In 2023, what percentage of Americans do you think believe in angels? This is Americans.
78%.
69.
69 is a great number.
Nice.
And
how many do you think believe in the devil in 2023?
65%.
56%.
56.
So I'm thinking like that feels low to me. I have no explanation as to why that is. But, you know, I'm just thinking maybe the more casual Christians or the more cultural people that are culturally Christian, they might not believe that angels are actually real. That could be one explanation for it. So this episode, I did a lot of research, but didn't really know where to start because they're so, like, how do you talk about angels? So we did the definition. I wanted to figure out, okay, different angel encounters in the Bible, but there's so many. So I'm just going to start with the first one. And that's we'll talk about a bunch of other ones as we go through. But I'm like, what was the first one? It's always interesting. So it's Genesis 18, verse 1 to 15. So This is when Abraham is visited by 3 strangers. So they approach him while he's sitting in the entrance of his tent. He extends hospitality to them, offering food and water. So that's what you should do, because you could be in the presence of angels. And they eat, they reveal themselves as angels. And then one of them announces that Sarah, Abraham's wife, will bear a son, and that son is Isaac. And this story is common in Judaism and Christianity and Islam. Those 3 religions all agree on that story. So that was the first encounter with angels. And then God asks Abraham to kill a son and all that. It's fine. No problem.
No problem. Moving on.
Anyway.
Let's gloss over that bit.
We like to gloss over that. So I read a book, and it's called Angels, A History. So there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who's the author? Like, are they a theologian?
This author, his name is David Albert Jones. He's a professor in bioethics at St. Mary's University in Twickenham. So he does like bioethics. So what I liked about this book is that it was a history of angels. I have no clue if this guy's a Christian. I'm assuming he is because he did do a degree in theology, but he doesn't talk about this as like, I believe in angels. Like, he actually deconstructs angels and where it comes from. So it was really interesting. So there's a bit of history that he talked about in the book that I wanted to mention. So by the time Israel became a unified kingdom under Saul in 1000 BCE-ish, the angels of God at that time were imagined as a heavenly army. So there was like no names or hierarchy. But he says, however, there was already in the earliest tradition reference to one very distinct kind of angelic being, the cherubim. So those are given the task of guarding paradise to prevent the first human beings from returning there. So like they guard Eden, and then they also guard the Ark of the Covenant. They're carved on the Ark of the Covenant. So we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it was just like angels, heavenly army, and like the cherubim, which we will talk about in detail later.
I know. I'm holding myself back right now.
I know you got lots to say. It wasn't until the exile of the Jews to Babylon, which like happens in 2 Kings, Jeremiah, and Daniel, that the idea surrounding angels really started to take shape. So he says the period after the return from exile saw a shift in Jewish views on angels. There was a greater concern with hierarchies, ranks, or numbers of angels. There was a growing devotion to a particular guardian angel assigned to each person. There was increasing talk about demons, and then chief of demons, Satan, actually, the enemy of God. Finally, there was a fascination with the naming of angels. So he says later in the book that like he believes that this might have been influenced by what's called Zoroastrianism, which is an ancient, which is like an ancient Iranian religion, which is one of the world's oldest religions. I did not look into this religion at all because I was like, I got to stay focused. But I guess it is postulated that some of these ideas came from Zoroastrianism. I thought that was interesting. I was like,
it's interesting. It like got like personalized over time though. Went from being like this faceless army to like every person, you get an angel, you get an angel, you get an angel.
7 billion of them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I found that interesting. And I'm like, well, that's how religion is made. Like you meet different people. You get exiled to Babylon. You meet people from a different religion. You adopt a few things from them and then you bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
After the return from exile, there was a greater concern with angels, as well as the names of angels. Jesus also spoke about angels and demons. Paul was ambivalent about angels and told people not to become fascinated with the myths surrounding angels, but he did talk about them. And then in art, around the 4th century, angels began to be depicted with wings.
They do have wings, though. And
I know. See, this is why I always give you the overview of the episode before we talk, because I'm like, just my next point is the cherubim and the seraphim have wings. So those are 2 types of angels. They're on the hierarchy of angels, which we'll get to in a few minutes, but they have wings. And there's like images of God, like a charioteer riding a cherub and flying upon wings of the wind. So there is a lot of wing imagery, but it wasn't until the 4th century that angels, not just cherubim, angels like the humanoid angels became depicted with wings. And then halos were adopted from pagan culture.
Oh, interesting.
And then the Protestant Reformation brought a decline in the interest of angels because Protestants were like, we don't like saints and like angels, and we want to keep religion about the Bible and Jesus. and our personal relationship with Jesus. So that's just like the brief history. I can see Sarah probably wants to jump in. Do you have anything to say?
I was going to say, I think like another interesting point that we haven't touched on would be that like the feminization of angels. Because it's like in every single church play, and perhaps it was because the wise men and the shepherds and like Mary's really the only woman that is there. And the fact that we're all wearing robes and cute little wings, like something about it was very feminized within church context. Like you kind of always pictured them as women, even though
there was a point in art. I didn't want to get again, like it's like I didn't want to get into this. I didn't want to get into that because if we just start talking about how art is depicted, we'll talk for an hour about it, which might be interesting to some, but not to others. And there was a point where the angels became more feminine looking, but they tried to keep them as men, but they looked like women because they were gentle, right? Like that was like the whole thing.
Like the beloved disciple in the Last Supper fiction.
The beloved disciple, John. Yes, exactly. So there is that point in history where art started to depict angels, but I'm glad that you brought that up because the next section does talk about the gender of angels. So I wanted to talk about the lore of angels and how it became to be like organized within Christianity. So there was a few theologians that talked about angels. I wanted to stick to our old friend St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah, Aquinas.
St. Tommy comes up again, man. He comes
bro
up again.
Bro is solid.
He is just creating doctrine. Like he loves.
Oh yeah,
doctrine.
he has an opinion on everything.
He sure does, and he wrote a lot of shit about it. And so he was from the 13th century. He wrote extensively about many things, including angels. He wrote this monumental treatise called Summa Theologica.
Everything in Latin sounds so much more like eloquent and like
legit.
Fancy.
Like this is legit. This is like so legit. So there's a lot of other things in the Summa Theologica, but I'm going to just only talk about the angel thing. So here are the main points he made regarding angels. Number one was the existence of angels. It starts with the question of whether angels exist. Obviously, he argues that angels do exist based on both philosophical reasoning and the authority of sacred scripture. Number two, the nature of angels. He discusses the nature, emphasizing their non-physical and spiritual essence. So there's like this whole thing about like the essence of angels. What are angels? What are they made up of? Are they human? Are they spiritual? So he says, unlike humans, angels do not possess bodies composed of matter, but rather exist as a pure intellects or minds. If they appear as people to someone, it's because they sometimes took on a material body that they made from condensed air.
Okay. What about how do you explain the Nephilim then? I would ask St. Thomas Aquinas that because the sons of God saw the daughters of man. So sons of God, they were thought to be fallen angels. And they're on earth having sex with women and then the Nephilim.
Did we think that the Nephilim were angels or was that just like a
theory? No, they're angel-human hybrids. Get it right.
Oh, fuck, sorry.
Yeah, they're angel-human hybrids. Yeah, that's what it was thought to be.
I don't know what St. Thomas Aquinas thought about the Nephilim. Let's see. Okay, so he did not specifically address Nephilim. No, he didn't talk about Nephilim. So sorry, I have disappointed you.
Well, the book of Enoch, which is the Apocrypha,
yes,
but also quoted in the Bible at some point, they view the Nephilim as offspring of fallen angels and humans.
Yeah, but it's non-canonical, Sarah. But I do want to say that we need to do an entire episode on the book of Enoch because it sounds fucking rad.
We need to dive deep into all of the Apocrypha because there's some really cool.
So that's the nature of angels, according to St. Thomas Aquinas, is that they're not composed of matter.
Some from time to time, they'll condense some air and then...
Like, look, I don't want to like make fun of theology, but my God.
But you know what? Like back then, though, like there wasn't a lot of knowledge about matter or what was going on. Like post Thomas Aquinas, like if we're getting into like the bubonic plague era, people thought that rats were like just appearing out of nothing. Like no one knew what was going on. Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's easy to, from our standpoint where there's been so much scientific progress and so the age of information, like it's so readily available and we can have ChatGPT explain something like we're 5. We can ask things on Reddit. Like I think information is so accessible to us that sometimes we can look at other people and be like, why would they say something like that? But like he's very revered.
can you just let me make fun of people? Am I not? God, I try to make fun of someone and Sarah just shuts me down. No, I mean, I think that the reason why I laugh is because it's so specific that I'm like, is this the important issue? Now, I know this is like the 13th century, so I don't know what important issues were happening back then, but it just seems so random. It's very philosophical when you think about it, just the amount of like you're going further and further down the rabbit hole and they're like, okay, well, they're not human and they don't have matter. But like, also, like, to be fair, he's also just completely making this up. Like, this is not in the Bible that their material body is made of condensed air.
No, absolutely.
Like, that's him just actually making stuff up, which is fine. Like, that's how theology can be created sometimes. So next in his Summa Theologica, he talks about the functions of angels. He just talks about their roles as messengers and intermediaries between God and humanity, and they carry out God's will and minister to the needs of individuals and the cosmos. So
what about their will?
Oh, but they don't that's the thing, is that angels aren't human.
But people say they don't have a will, but then you have fallen angels that were capable of making another choice. No one could ever answer this for me when I was younger, because they'd be like, I'm like, why are humans fallen and sinful? And they're like, well, angels are perfect servants of God. And I'm like, but then there were fallen angels. And everyone was like, well,
the fallen angels thing is interesting. I would love to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it later. And It just like, I just want to finish what St. Thomas Aquinas says. So sorry, listeners, we'll talk about fallen angels in a few minutes, but intellectual abilities, he says that angels have superior intellect to humans. Angels possess innate knowledge of God and his truths, as well as the ability to reason and comprehend spiritual realities. So they are a higher being. So it's hard for us to understand how you could become a fallen angel, because we're just dumb humans, right? How do we understand that?
Yeah.
There's my answer, Sarah. Don't question.
That's about as satisfying as the answers that I got when I was in New Frontiers.
And then he talks about guardian angels.
Okay.
And he says that God assigns guardian angels to each individual to protect them throughout their lives. And there was like a whole section of this book. It's like, how many guardian angels are there? And then it's like, there are 7 billion guardian angels, because there is one per person.
I'm just remembering a book I had about angels when I was a kid.
Okay.
And it was about a kid. It was like a little angel that was like in the clouds with like their cute little wings, and they were going to angel school so they could learn to be a good guardian angel. And I'm like,
cute.
Yeah, it was cute. But I'm like thinking about it now, and I'm like, I was like taking that verbatim as like, this is
legit. Yeah, well, you would as a child. I would too. I definitely, the guardian angel thing, I don't think I ever believed that, even as a kid.
I was like, yeah, you don't believe it now, do you?
No, I think I believe in it now. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I think I was like, that sounds strange. But then, you're like, that's magical, and everything's magical when you're a kid.
Well, I think it's like comforting, right? Like,
well, the last and most interesting thing that St. Thomas Aquinas talks about is the hierarchy of angels. So he says that there's a hierarchy. Other theologians before him had talked about the hierarchy, but he really defined it.
Okay.
And there's different ranks and orders depending on their proximity to God and specific functions within the divine economy. I thought that was the funniest phrase. I was like, the divine economy, like there's like we have a GDP of heaven, and like I just love the idea.
Like, it's a recession right now. It's been a little rough.
Yeah, in heaven. Yeah, there's a supply and demand. Okay, so the hierarchy of angels. This is where we're gonna get. I can see that you're itching to talk about what angels look like, so don't worry. This is where it is. There are 9. So there are 9
types.
9 types of angels. Okay, one other thing he talks about is that like each individual angel is its own species. Not that each section of the hierarchy is its own species, but each individual angel is its own species. So there's like billions of species of angels. I don't see, Sarah. It's like, why are we talking about this?
You use the word species?
Yeah. So it says, how can you tell 2 angels apart? This was a real problem for Thomas Aquinas. He thought what distinguished 2 human beings was to do with their physical life. Ultimately, I am over here and you are over there, and this is my body and that is yours. This led him to say something rather mysterious, that there can only be one angel of each species. All human beings share the same species. Every human being has human parents. However, angels have no parents. They're not born in a particular place. They're not distinguished by the history of their bodies.
That must be... Wow.
I know, lonely existence.
That's worse than America with all these split up families. Imagine having no parents.
You know what? Angels, they just don't respect the sanctity of marriage anymore. They don't respect family values, those angels.
Can I just do a quick aside?
Yeah.
Okay. My city, there's like a lawyer that's organizing like a divorce expo where it's like this big, like, you know how there's like marriage expos and you go and there's like wedding dress and vendors, a divorce expo where there's like,
I'm obsessed with this,
lawyers and mediators and counselors. And I'm just like,
I love that so much.
Yeah, a divorce expo. Anyway, moving on.
That. All right. Well, what were we talking about? Oh, the hierarchy of angels. Yes.
So let's get into it.
There are 9.
That's so many angels.
But each individual angel is its own species. So number 1 is the seraphim.
Are they at the top?
They are the top dog of the angels. The seraphim.
I'm going to just Google a picture.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. I'll describe it. Yeah, they look insane. These are like the insane looking angels. So the seraphim are often depicted as fiery beings surrounding the throne of God. They're described as having 6 wings.
I would shit myself if I saw one of those in the wild.
I know. The description is in Isaiah 6, verse 1 to 2. Or, well, verse 1 to more, but I'm only going to say 1 to 2.
Can I read it?
Yeah.
So Isaiah 6, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings, with 2 wings that covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and 2 were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy is the Lord God Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory.
So the seraphim, I would say everybody should Google a seraphim image. They're the ones that like have like a million eyes. There's just so many random little verses that like mention a seraphim. They're also described as like a fiery flying serpent in the book of Enoch. So like that's another thing. So you're like, it's all over the place. So that's a seraphim. And they are associated with the intense love and adoration of God. I don't know what their function is because some of these angels in the hierarchy, it tells you what their function is. The seraphim are just like there. They're just like the best ones, I guess. The cherubim are more interesting than the seraphim. So let's move on.
Yeah, the cherubim are like UFOs, basically.
The cherubim, so they're often depicted as guardians of God's glory and wisdom. They're associated with knowledge and understanding. And sometimes they are depicted as having 4 faces and 4 wings. I'm going to send you a Bible verse, Sarah. And this is way better than the other one. And I also, it's long.
Can you please give the book?
Oh, sorry. This is Ezekiel 1.
Okay. So Ezekiel 1.
Yeah.
I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight. Their feet were like those of a calf and gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings, on their 4 sides, they had human hands. All 4 of them had faces and wings, and the wings of one touched the wings of another. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved. Their faces looked like this. Each of the 4 had a face of a human being, and on the right side of each face had a face of a lion, and the left had a face of an ox. Each also had the face of an eagle. Where? They each had 2 wings spreading out upward, each wing touching that of the creature on either side, and each had 2 other wings covering its body. The appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals of fire or like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright. Lightning flashed out of it. The creatures sped back and forth like flashes of lightning. Like, I don't know what drugs this person, I don't know what drugs Ezekiel's taking, but like.
Yeah. Do you remember talking about this in our Was Jesus an Alien episode?
Yes, absolutely.
So we did talk about this. We also talked about, so we talked about Ezekiel. And then after that verse where they described the cherubim, they described like all the wheels.
All the wheels. Yeah, the wheels and the eyes and like. Yeah. And so, it's like the wheels are like wheels that can move in all 4 directions, which is like only a recent technology.
Yeah. It's like crazy. That military wheel. We talked about this. And so something else. So we'll just do a little aside before we continue with the hierarchy, because I wanted to talk about aliens really quick.
Who doesn't want to talk about aliens?
I know, aliens.
Aliens.
And so we did an episode a long time ago, feels like forever ago, on Was Jesus an Alien? But we talked a lot about just like aliens in the Bible and like ancient aliens, like the show. Anyway, it was a really fun episode. So you guys should go listen to it. Yeah. It's near the beginning of the feed. And so basically in the 1970s, this man named Eric von Daniken, he caused a controversy by claiming that in the book of Ezekiel, this is actually
that he's like abducted, essentially.
Well, this is actually like aliens that are coming down and not angels. And so, which I'm like, dude, like if you're going to take all of this literally, like if we're going to take every single thing that he says in a literal sense,
I think it's far more plausible that it's aliens, like
aliens.
even down to Jesus, if we're going to take it all literally.
Yes. But if we don't take it literally, actually the author of the Angels book that I read, he had an interesting argument because he said that Eric von Daniken is not looking at the context in the story of Ezekiel, which I love. But his argument was interesting. He said it was written at a time when the kingdom of Judah had been defeated by the Babylonian army and many Jews had been taken into captivity. And one of the most traumatic aspects of that defeat was the desecration of the temple. Right. And this holy place, it was built by Solomon, and it was a center of Jewish worship for centuries, and it was destroyed by a foreign army. And so the whole book of Ezekiel is shaped by imagery taken from the temple in Jerusalem. And it contains a promise that the temple will be rebuilt and will be the center of a renewed Israel. So I thought that was interesting because I was like, oh, like if we just like don't take everything so literally, which we love doing because it's hilarious, then maybe it's just like symbology and imagery. So we're back to cherubim. It's funny when I hear the word cherubim or cherub, you just think of a big fat baby with angel wings, right?
Yeah. But like I think of like Cupid with his little arrow and his little like curly hair, and
I love that. But apparently it has 4 faces: one of an ox, one of a lion, one of a eagle.
I don't know where the eagle face is because one's like the left and right, and that's the other one is it like
in the back? I guess, like, but they're all facing forward.
I would shit my pants if I met this creature. Like I would not be okay.
I would like.
Would you be okay?
No, I would definitely think I'm having like a psychotic meltdown, and I wouldn't write it down being like, this is the truth and God is coming back. Like, I don't think I would know I'm unwell if I saw something like this. That's what's so fascinating about the Old Testament is that sometimes I read these things and I'm like, if this is literal, if it's literal, then this person needs some serious help.
But when I was doing my research for the prayer episode, I went down this like slight rabbit hole of places where they believe in like shaman and like spiritual healers and talking with the ancestors. And there are children that are like the shaman of a tribe, and they're being taught by the other shaman how to communicate with the ancestors. But they identify these children based on like certain attributes, and they would meet the criteria for psychosis, but they're functioning within their society, and they're like a revered part of their society, and they're actually like living their life in a meaningful way, which is like, it's a very interesting departure from how we view psychosis in society. Yeah. So like that would be a very interesting episode to do.
Wow. That is really interesting.
And it's mind-blowing because like when those things are not pathologized and revered, the person is functioning in their society and celebrated and doing well. I think that's where our mindset within Judeo-Christian culture, it is like in the West is like so tiny and so small. And when I read about things like that, I'm like, it's so interesting how spirituality and religion has manifested in so many different ways, and how you have so many different expressions of humanity and what we might pathologize now, which is really something that isn't pathologized in certain contexts. And then like how that person's life carries out is very different. Because that person would be like on antipsychotic drugs. They might be hospitalized for significant periods of time.
And like them being on antipsychotic drugs and hospitalized, that has nothing to do with Christianity, but it has a lot to do with our culture, which is shaped by Christianity and Judeo-Christian values. So I find that really interesting because like when people are so stuck in their belief in Jesus and God, I'm like, look at this. Like, look what these people are doing. How is this any less authentic than what you're experiencing?
I think the whole human experience, like whatever is going on in our brains, like we talked about that during the prayer episode, what's going on in our brains when we're having all of these spiritual experiences, so interesting. And I don't doubt that people have experiences where they feel like they're encountering angels, and it's neurotheology. I highly doubt that angels are actually real, but people are having experiences, and those experiences are valid.
Do you want to continue on with the hierarchy?
Yeah, I do.
So we're on number 3. This is taking a while, but it's okay. The first 2 are the most interesting, I think.
Yeah, cherubim, cherubim.
So we got seraphim, we got cherubim.
Cherubim, yeah.
And then we have what's called thrones. Just thrones. The thrones are described as the celestial beings who carry out God's divine justice and judgment. They are associated with the divine authority and are often depicted as thrones or chariots upon which God's glory rests.
So they're alive chair. They're like chairs that are alive.
Like in Beauty and the Beast. Oh, Sarah. See, this is a problem. Is like, I don't know. And like, so, okay. One of the Bible verses they use is Colossians 1:16. Okay. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. So they're like thrones.
That is not how I've traditionally interpreted that verse. Like thrones would be like human kingdoms and queens and like royalty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's thrones. I'm so sorry. I'm doing my best. There's no description of what they look like. I guess like a chariot or a chair.
Now I'm like going to think about every time I sit down, like, are you a throne?
Are you a throne?
Am I entertaining a throne without being aware? Like,
but
shit.
Thrones don't deal with humans. They are associated with divine authority. And like, they are like beyond humans. They don't fuck with us. Okay, so the dominions, this is number 4. They're also known as lordships or dominations. They're believed to oversee the activities of lower angels and govern the cosmic order. They are associated with regulation and organization of the universe.
So they're like manager angels?
Yeah, it's like the managers. I know. This is what's so strange is that we're almost classifying this like a company.
Like, I feel like you and I are both working at Shoppers Drug Mart again. And, and like Jim's coming in and he's...
This one's interesting. This one kind of made me laugh because it reminds me that there's like some sort of heavenly economy, that there's someone overseeing the regulation and the organization of this heavenly economy. And it's just interesting that we're putting these human attributes onto a celestial being. That's all I'll say.
So welcome to the whole Bible.
Number 5 is virtues. The virtues are associated with the manifestation of God's miracles and blessings in the world. They are believed to govern the laws of nature and are responsible for maintaining harmony and balance in the cosmos. So I guess another type of angel. I don't know what they look like.
It's like Newtonian physics. Are we saying that that's an angel?
Sure. Yeah, because like, do they have to be like a physical being? Like, these aren't even physical beings. They're just energies. That's what's so strange is that they don't have like bodies. So it's so hard for me to understand what the fuck they're talking about because like as humans, like we're so black and white. These are actually like really trippy concepts. Like St. Thomas Aquinas might have taken some mushrooms, okay? And been like, whoa. So number 6 is the powers. The powers are associated with the protection and defense of the cosmos against forces of evil. They're believed to possess the power to restrain and combat demonic influences.
Oh, so like when I was at the summer camp and that girl told me that there were a bunch of like demons that were like trying to get to everyone. Mm-hmm. And then there were the tall white blobs like circling every Christian. Mm-hmm. Maybe they weren't guardian angels. Maybe they were these powers. Well,
what's interesting about the powers is that we're not even to the part where these angels are coming to contact with humans. So the powers are still, it has to do with the cosmos, not to do with like human beings and our lives.
Okay, so up until now, all of them, like the thrones, the powers, the virtues, they're all non-binary, right?
There's no gender because they're not human. There's no genders. Like they're not beings. So as we talked about before, he says that they are an essence. They're a spiritual essence. They do not possess bodies.
But if we had to assign a gender, they'd be non-binary.
I guess. But the problem is that gender is a human concept. Also, like sex organs and these things, they are to do with like mammals and beings on the earth. These are cosmos, like non-physical, spiritual essences. They're pure intellect. They're not gendered. There's no sex.
Okay, so they're agendered, not non-binary.
Well, there's just no... oh my God.
Okay, I'm joking.
I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm like, they can't be... There's no gender.
You're just like, it's just mammals. It's just mammals. Not mammals. They're not mammals. They're different species.
They're not even a species.
No, I know.
Well, actually, they are their own individual
Depends
species.
on who you're talking to. Okay, moving on.
Oh
okay,
my God.
We got those ones. Okay. What are the next ones?
The principalities. They're also known as princedoms or rulers. They're believed to be responsible for overseeing the activities of nations, cities, and communities. They are associated with the administration of earthly affairs and the implementation of God's divine plan. I just like the administration part. I was like, okay, so these are their admin assistants. They're making sure the wheels are turning in the company.
They're doing a great job in the United States. Excellent job.
I think the principalities are...
they're killing it.
We need a bit of a shakeup in that department. So now we're finally coming to like where they actually interact with humans. So we're off of like the middle managers and the admin assistants and the CEOs and all of that. We're going to talk about archangels, which is number 8.
Frontline staff.
This is frontline staff, archangels. So this is like the second lowest rank of angels.
Like Michael.
Michael is an archangel. Archangels are high-ranking angels who serve as messengers or heralds of God's will. They're often depicted as delivering important messages.
Hark the herald angels say.
There you go. Sure.
So we got Michael, we got Harold, we got...
I don't think we have one named Harold.
It was a joke. It was a joke. Hark the herald angels.
Harold's angels. Harold's the head one. No.
Harold, we got Michael.
We got George.
We got Chad and Brad.
Archangels Chad, Archangel Brad. So the Greek prefix for arch, it means chief. So it's like chief angels.
Oh, cool.
The archangels in Judaism, Islam, and most of Christianity are like almost always Michael and Gabriel. So those are like the two main ones that most of those religions agree on. And then in Catholicism, there's also Raphael. There's 7 in the Book of Enoch. But it's like those 3 seem to be the most widely agreed upon archangels. The New Testament, it makes over 100 references to angels, but only uses the word archangel twice. So the first one is in 1 Thessalonians 4:16. It says, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with a trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first." And then Jude 1:9, it says, "But even the archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" So I don't know what the context of that is, but that's the only time that archangels are mentioned.
What about the angels that pour out all of the plagues in Revelation?
So they're just angels. We'll talk about the book of Revelation, but I didn't, again, sorry guys, didn't dive into the book of Revelation too much for this episode.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Couldn't do it.
It was a dream a guy had on an island. We don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, and nobody should. Gabriel appears 3 times in the Bible. So to Daniel, to Zechariah, and to Mary. The biggest story for sure is when he appears to Mary and tells her she's going to give birth to Jesus. He's never mentioned in the Bible as being an archangel, however. He's an important angel. I guess that's an important job. And he's called an archangel, though, in the book of Enoch.
Not the Bible.
I know. The book of Enoch, I swear to God, has some good stuff in there.
But we're not Christians, so we can go outside of the canon of Scripture.
Yeah, of course. We can believe whatever we want. Michael is often referred to as the chief prince of the heavenly. That's what that's what they call him. He appears in Jude, Daniel, and the book of Revelation. So this is where he's talked about in the book of Revelation. I guess I did pull a Bible verse from there. So he's in the book of Revelation 12, verse 7. I can send this to you if you want to read it.
Sure. I love a good scriptural passage. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels, he has his own personal angels, fought against the dragon, and his angels fought back. The dragon has his own angels, must be fallen angels.
Yeah, I think the dragon's supposed to be Satan.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the woman that was
on the dragon. Yeah, not the same. Yeah.
But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, the ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth and his angels with him.
That's it.
You know what? We should do a whole episode on Satan. I have so many thoughts on Lucifer.
Have we not done an episode on Satan?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about him in a few minutes.
I'm a big fan.
Deconstructing Satan and all the theologians that have talked about him it's fascinating because there's very little in the Bible about him and there's a whole lot of shit out there about him. So that's the best parts of Christianity, when there's like no context in scripture and then
you're like, oh, we have the screw tape letters and I'm losing sleep now because I'm 12 and reading this.
Oh my God. Okay, well, we'll put that on the list. I'm sure it's on the list. We got to do it.
Yeah, Satan. I love all the rebels.
Before we talk about Satan, I want to talk about the lowest rung in the hierarchy, which is angels or guardian angels. I'm glad that they're like the lowliest angels.
Like the ones that we're entertaining that are like just coming over. And
yeah, they're like the lowest rung.
Like, you want some wine and bread?
Yeah. So they're like the door-to-door salesman of angels.
They're like the bottom tier of multi-level marketing.
Yes.
They're like cold messaging people from grade 9 that they have on Facebook still, like 13 years later.
Yeah.
And they're like, so how are you? I have a business opportunity.
Yeah. Also, can I send you a sample of my creams?
Or you just had a baby and you must hate your body. So do you want to wrap?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a message that you actually did get.
That was a message I actually got. Maybe that was one of those angels.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You should have entertained it, Sarah. Now you're going to hell. Angels. They're believed to serve as messengers, guardians, and guides to individuals carrying out various tasks assigned by God. So we talked about Zoroastrianism earlier, that perhaps that the belief was influenced by Zoroastrianism, which the Jews encountered in Babylon. But it's also influenced by a verse that Raphael says. He says he will give his angels charge of you to guard you in all of your ways. So that's Psalms 91:11.
Oh, Raphael says that?
Oh, no, sorry. He doesn't say that. Raphael is around and the verse is said. So I don't know, Sarah. Jesus Christ. I'm doing my best. So basically the thought is that there's 7 billion guardian angels. Every single person has their own personal guardian angel, helping them through their lives, carrying out like more menial tasks. Like the angels and the guardian angels are here more for like little things that God can't really help us with. God's really busy. There's a cosmos.
Like sports teams winning.
Yeah, or like help us with our promotion or help us find our car keys, like things like that. That's what the guardian angels are apparently for. Yeah, St. Thomas Aquinas actually said it helps you find your car keys. So it's legit.
Not
yeah,
true.
back in the 13th century.
They didn't have cars.
Oh, okay, you don't have to explain the joke. I think they got it.
Or wheels that went 4 ways.
You know when you have to explain the joke, that it's a really good one. So what do you think about guardian angels? What do you think about this?
I think one of the interesting things that is not mentioned in the Bible is that people often attribute when someone dies, they're like, they're going to be a guardian angel now, or like, they're my guardian angel. And it's like, that's not in the Bible.
No, that's interesting because that's 100% not in the scripture, like you just said, and not in what St. Thomas Aquinas says about angels. You don't become an angel as a human when you die.
But you do become a sexless being.
Yes.
Perhaps your own species.
Perhaps.
Or perhaps just some condensed air. No one knows.
You don't know.
No, actually, you have a new body. And that is why you shouldn't get cremated, so that you can raise from the dead.
And become a zombie. That's basically it for the hierarchy.
Okay.
And I want to talk about bad angels really quick, because we were talking about fallen angels earlier. What I wanted to figure out is like when the fallen angels are discussed in the Bible, what their names are.
Job discusses.
Yes, Job. So in the book of Job, and we talked about the book of Job.
I think it was a story time with Sarah.
Yes, it was. And Satan going to God and saying, oh, this man won't worship you if you give him boils and kill all his family or whatever. And so that was a reference.
Boils and killing someone's family are all.
That's all you have to do.
Don't worry, God gave him new kids.
Yes, okay. Yeah, no problem.
I'm so sorry.
Fuck those old kids.
Poor Job. I really feel for Job. Like Job's wife that was like, curse God and die. Like,
so there are a few different names that are brought up in the Bible. So in Revelations, they talk about Abaddon or Apollyon. In Mark 3:22, we see Beelzebub, which is
Beelzebub.
Beelzebub.
Is it Beelzebub or Beelzebub?
Well, okay, so but in the song Bohemian Rhapsody, he says Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me. So that's why I thought it was Beelzebub.
No, you may be right.
And then Satan, the name Satan is brought up in Mark 1:13.
Lucifer.
No, like the actual, like the Satan. Whatever. They say the Satan in Mark 1:13. I was looking at Lucifer specifically. And Lucifer actually only shows up in the Bible in the King James Version. In Isaiah 14:12, it says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?
Interesting.
Next up is talking about Satan.
Okay.
Or the Satan. There are 2 verses in the Bible that theologians have used to create the narrative that Satan was a fallen angel. Isaiah 14:12-15 and Ezekiel 28:12-17. We can read them both, but in the Bible, both of these verses are directed towards quote unquote evil earthly rulers. One was a king of Babylon and one was a king of Tyre, but they're interpreted as allegorical descriptions of Satan's rebellion against God. So basically, the theologians that have talked about this are St. Augustine of Hippo, St. Thomas Aquinas, and John Calvin. There's been many more, but I found it interesting because I was like, what is the lore of this Satan being a fallen angel? And this is why I think we should do a whole episode on this, because if they're only taking 2 verses from the Bible that are talking about something completely different.
And then creating this whole narrative.
Yeah.
Of this nefarious bad guy that is trying to destroy your life at all times. 2 verses is like a very weak scaffolding for this whole doctrine that is very central.
Yes. That's why I found it interesting. I know they did talk about it a little bit in Job as well. So I think it's going to be worth us looking into this.
Let's dive into Satan.
I just want to say something that Paul says in one of his letters. So what he says is that he encourages Christians to, quote, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we are not contending against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the world of rulers in this present darkness, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. That's Ephesians 6:11-12.
Oh, spiritual warfare.
But he says we're not contending against the flesh and blood. We are against principalities and powers, which are 2 of the hierarchies of angels. So I thought that was also interesting. They don't talk about that, but I was like, huh. But the devil and his angels are seen as an enemy army, and Christians should expect to come under attack, according to this Bible verse. So I just feel like you said, the scaffolding it's fallen apart. It is crumbling.
Yeah.
And this whole narrative around the devil is so powerful within our society. Like, the devil has also crossed over into pulp culture and obviously, and into regular people's lives. Everyone knows if you say Satan, they know what you mean. And so I find it really fascinating to just be like, there's fucking nothing. There's nothing here that tells you that the devil really is a fallen angel and like the story of the whole thing in scripture.
Right.
And so I don't know. That's it. Before we finish, we have those stories. And one of the stories, I have an extra little tidbit of information.
Cool.
So is it on Insta?
I basically just asked people what their beliefs were about angels or or their experiences.
The first one I want to talk about is Seventh-day Adventists. This one. Can I talk about
that? Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
So they are obsessed with the third angel's message from Revelation and tell themselves it totes only applies to them. So SDA folks on social media regularly talk about the 3 angel message. So I looked up the 3 angel message because I was like, what is this? It is like their doctrine. So what they're talking about is an interpretation of the book of Revelation when 3 angels give a message. So I'll kind of read it out here. So there's 3 angels. This is also Revelations 4, verse 6-11. So Angel 1 says, fear God and give him glory because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water. Angel 2 says, fallen is Babylon the Great, which made all nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries. Angel 3 says, if anyone worships the beast and its image and receives a mark on their forehead or their hand, they too will drink the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. They will be tormented with burning sulfur in the presence of holy angels and the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever. There will be no rest, day or night, for those who worship the beast and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of its name. So the Seventh-day Adventists are a really interesting religion. They are built on like a doomsday cult called the Millerites. We've talked about the Millerites before. And it's all about like the imminent second coming of Jesus. So this is like the central part of their doctrine. So the mission statement of the church says, the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is to proclaim all peoples the everlasting gospel of God's love in the context of the 3 angels' messages in Revelation 14, 6-12. And it is revealed in the life, death, and resurrection and high priestly ministry of Jesus Christ, leading them to accept Jesus as personal Savior and Lord, and to unite with his remnant church and to nurture believers as disciples in preparation for his soon return. So,
interesting.
Anyway, so that's what this person was talking about, the 3 angels, which is like, oh God.
I found a video that I'm going to share with you.
Oh, and someone said angels in the outfield.
Yeah,
okay,
that was
what
so good.
An absolute throwback. Like, I remember seeing previews for Angels in the Outfield on like other Disney movie VHSs. So that was pretty good. Here, I'll read a story. Someone says, was told by pulpit that angels are only men, never women. Hey, we talked about this. There are no genders. So Sarah sent me a video, Touched by an Angel. Will Frank believe Monica or Kathleen? Oh my God. I bet this is really good. You ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Help me. Monica?
I am an angel sent by God to help you.
An angel.
She's just your hallucination, Frank. Your job has finally pushed you over the edge.
Kathleen?
I care about you, Frank. And you can't take the pressure of this job anymore. Done enough good deeds for one lifetime. It's time to take care of yourself.
What a perfect plan to destroy a man who repairs broken families.
I don't believe this is happening.
It's not. You're losing your mind.
No, you're fighting for your soul, Frank, right here. Think. When did all these terrible things start happening to you? When did the nightmares begin?
No. Kathleen loves me.
No. Kathleen has shown you a poor imitation of love. But if you look at her with the light of God, then you will see her for what she truly is.
The pain, the terror of those children will be on your shoulders. God has abandoned them.
No, never.
I'm telling you the truth.
She's telling you lies, Frank.
God, please help me. Who's telling the truth?
Come on, baby. You said so yourself. I'm too good.
I was obsessed with the show. I love this
What
show.
was she?
She used to be an angel, but she traded the power of love for the love of power. But her power over you has just been broken.
That was close.
She almost stopped you from doing what you were born to do, Frank. To save the children. God doesn't expect you to win every time, Frank. He loves you, and you should use that love to give you the strength to keep going.
Oh my God. Sarah, I'm not watching. We're not watching Touched by an Angel anymore. That's it. That's the only clip that I'm letting you make me watch.
It was such a great show. It was on the same network as Seventh Heaven.
Oh my God. That must have been just the worst 2 hours of anyone's life. How were there so many of those shows on back then? Did you watch this?
Yeah, it wasn't just Monica, it was Tess and Andrew. And there was always like every episode, one of them was like the main angel that was like, my name's Monica and I'm an angel.
Yeah, her accent is very interesting.
She has a beautiful voice. And Tess is kind of like we should talk about The Shack sometime.
The what?
The Shack.
What's that?
Heard of the book The Shack?
No.
You've never heard of the book The Shack?
No.
Who are you?
When
did this come out?
The
Okay.
Shack.
The Shack is actually like, well, I haven't read it in a long time, so don't trust my opinion. So The Shack came out.
Okay, it says it's a top-selling fiction book and will be a major motion picture in 2017. Did it actually come out as a movie?
Yeah, it came out as a movie, but it was 2007 it came out, and it depicts God the Father as like a black woman, and people didn't like that God was personified as a woman. But like it was a very interesting book.
Octavia Spencer plays God. Her name is Papa in the movie.
Papa, yeah.
All right, well,
we're gonna do a hard pivot, as I like to say, and we're gonna do a shout out to someone that we think is awesome. I'm not gonna make that Touched by an Angel.
Thank God.
I'm gonna shout out Reliant K because I want them to notice me at some point. Reliant K is so fun because they had similar tour with them, like I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago, and that was like a big controversy because there were all these articles being like, why are you letting a queer person open for you? And they're like, we don't care, we're still Christian, but we support queer people. And Reliant K was always like a good jam.
I just want to say that I saw your post that you were like shooting my shot with Reliant K, and then nothing happened, but that's okay. I think it's like worth just digging hard on it.
So we're gonna shout them out because Reliant K, love your values, love your music. It was like Christian enough that all of us church kiddos were allowed to listen to it, but cool enough that maybe it bled into the secular world a little bit.
Yeah, I saw you at Creation Fest in 2007. It was pretty good.
Hit us up if you ever want to. We're here. We're always here for you, Reliant K.
We're always here for you. And we're always here for you, listeners. So we will be back in a couple weeks.
And in terms of story time with Sarah, I don't have the drive right now.
Oh, you know what? That's okay. We talked a lot about Bible verses today, so I think we're okay. We'll do a story time with Sarah next time.
I'm just going to assign the story time with Sarah to when we talked about the angels with all the faces.
Yeah, there we go. That was
the story. It. Take it or leave it. We're signing off now. Thank you.
Love you all.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
No, you can't get there.
You're the Lord.